So I'm going to go through this because I've done a lot of research. And I'm going to connect the dots on how this thing works. And you're going to see some of the actual passages in the plan. First, we got to go out of Rutherford County. We got to go to Nashville to the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Anybody ever heard one of these? Yes. All right, these guys, not made up of, it's not a government agent. It is authorized by the federal government, but it's just a coalition of all the mayors in about a 5-county area right around Nashville. And they get together and they spend federal money on transportation plans. They have a very strong influence on how we plan our community. Mayors adopt new transportation plan for Middle Tennessee. Coincidentally, it's 2035. That's the same year that our comprehensive plan has, the comprehensive plan 2035. We'll explain a little bit more why. Inside of here's one of the big things that MPO did. They conducted They conducted a bicycle and pedestrian study to find out what we needed in the way of bike paths. And this also includes greenways and walking paths and that sort of thing. Rutherford County, by the way, was out of this MPO. We're the first county to actually put the greenway in. Back in 1994, that's when they started working on it. We've been working on it longer than the other 5 counties. And the MPO is tied directly to Fed, HUD, and DOT. They offer all these funds. And so they tend to fall in lockstep with what these guys want. And you see the number of bike paths here. Davidson has the, the blue is your bike routes. Davidson has about 48 miles. We've got about 12. We've got about 21 miles of greenway. So you can see there's about 100 miles of bike path up there. That thing keeps popping up. But here's what they propose. They propose that we build 1,127 miles of bike paths around the 5-county area. So that'd be about 200 miles per county if you want to average it out. They did say this, that a large number of communities through their zoning and subdivision regulations require sidewalk and bikeways. Well, that wouldn't be such a big deal, but when you put the cost to it, it makes a big deal. And they even recognize that the funding is outlandish. They say costs associated with constructing bike and pedestrian facilities recommended in this study far exceed available resources. If you look at how much they plan on spending on that 1,127 miles, anybody want to guess? If you know it, don't cheat. Well, how much would you think it'd be, sir? A lot of money. What would you think? Guess. $4 million. Okay. You're only off by a factor of about 32 because it's $800 million. This is from the bike path from the MPO people with a year 2035 transportation plan. There's a major street map of the roads in Rutherford County. That right there, all the blue lines. Oh, wait a minute, I made a mistake. That's not roads. Those are bicycle paths, proposed bicycle paths in Rutherford County. So you see all those blue lines? Those go all the way out to the county line in 7 different directions. Okay, no big deal, right? Everybody likes bike paths. But let's talk about property rights, which is really what this is all about. How can a bike path violate your property rights? Well, I want you to meet Dave McCurry. Dave, will you stand up? That's Dave McCurry right there. I may not be able to play the video. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. But it's probably not going to work. But no, it's not going to work. There's a Channel 5 YouTube. By the way, do we have silent sheets tonight? If you want to get all of the YouTube videos, here's Dave's story. His dad lost a house in 1964 to TVA eminent domain when they flooded. Didn't flood the house, left the house in 5 acres, and could have lived in the house. No, they took it off. Now a judge lives in it. So his dad took his money and went down the road and built a house, and then the interstate came through and took his house for that. So Dave went out in the county and was going to buy some property next to the Stones River. Brought his dad out there and said, Dad, do you think you're going to flood this river and take my house? He said, no, I don't think so, son. But they might widen your road up here. He said, no, Dad, that's 150 feet away. I'll never have to worry about that. 27 years later, wakes up, well, probably not that long, several years ago,
1998 is when they started.
They started building the bike path in 1998. He went to one of the meetings and saw that his house was right in the middle of it. And he laughed thinking, well, come on, a bike path? Well, he's losing his house. The city of Murfreesboro expanded the Greenway and took his house. They're making an offer on it right now. Have they made an offer yet?
They haven't made an offer yet.
They've come out and appraised it. And he's in his 30-day appraisal window. But
it's been 50 days now.
It's been 50 days, okay, so they're already over the timeline. Bottom line, though, is he can't fight eminent domain. All he can fight for right now is for more money. Unless Larry has a word to say about that. But so anyway, he's losing his house. And guess what? You know what I don't understand? It's a city bike path, Greenway, right? It's not the county. He doesn't live in the city.
It was done to me with absolutely no representation that I got to vote for.
So the city that doesn't represent him out in the county took his land to put a bike path in.
That's absolutely wrong.
It is wrong. That's why we're here tonight. So anyway, I can send, if you sign up before you go, we'll send out a link to the YouTube where you can see his entire story. Channel 5 did a story on it. Okay. Let's see if we can connect the dots between our comprehensive plan and the Agenda 21 at the UN. UN launched Agenda 21 back in '92, as Sally said. President Clinton signed an executive order in '94 to actually say we need to have environmental justice for underprivileged minority groups, under-income families. So that was done. They fully embraced it. Is the EPA connected with Agenda 21? Well, let's see. I went to the EPA's website. This is EPA's website, and I put in Agenda 21 in their search field on their homepage, and I got 304 articles about Earth Summit and Agenda 21. So they are intimately involved with Agenda 21. Sustainable living, they fully embrace it, and they came up with environmental justice. And then this is a definition of sustainable development meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. That comes from the World Commission on Economic Development in '87. See, that was before Agenda 21 ever came out. So they already had a definition for it. You say, why am I bringing that up? It's in '87. What's that have to do with the EPA? Well, the EPA quoted it in this report right here that says an update on ongoing and future EPA actions to empower communities and advance the integration of environmental justice in decision-making and research. And if you notice the date on that, that was last month, October 2011. So they are fully embraced, EPA has fully embraced Agenda 21 and Sustainable Living and Environmental Justice Plan EJ 2014. What is this? Well, 2014 is the 20-year anniversary of the executive order that Bill Clinton signed for federal actions to address environmental justice in minority populations and low-income families. It helps the agency integrate environmental justice, this plan that they're about to introduce. This is their 20-year anniversary, new improved version. And what it's going to do is help the agency integrate programs, policies, and activities, cross-agency focus, development tools, initiatives, as 3 essential elements that will advance environmental justice across the EPA and the federal government. Now, if you go in and read like I did, you'll see that they not only want to do it at the EPA, they want to integrate it through all of federal government and every agency. They want to use environmental justice on every decision they make. And then he said, the second thing I do is help you change the rules. Now, help you change the rules on a local basis, help you change local codes. I've got it on the video. I wish I could play it. That was the main thing I wanted to show you, is that it was there. Okay? And if we have time, I might be able to bring it up offline. So that is, to me, scary when an EPA guy standing in front of my mayor, by the way, our mayor was at that meeting, saying, hey, we're going to help you change your codes. Okay? And I don't think this is going to play either, but do you know who Carl Dean is? Mayor of Nashville? He got up at the same conference and gave a closing statement, and he says, we've got to work together. We've got to keep promoting regional, he called it regionalism. We've got to promote regionalism over our own independent local governments. And he said, you'll notice I showed a map of a conservation plan, and there's arrows pointing, when you get to the end of the corners of Davidson County, it doesn't stop there. You'll see arrows pointing in every direction because we want to be able to have greenways go cross county lines. So we can have a 300-mile mayor's walk. So let's connect the Nashville MPO to the comprehensive plan. There's that map he's talking about. And so if you, right here is Rutherford County, so there's the green arrow saying, hey, we want to move those bike paths over there. So how many people here think that you can put up a fight like Dave McCurry? I mean, Dave put up a fight, but he's still losing his property. How many people might have a bike path coming through your property? Okay, that's just one of the things that would make me a little frustrated. Here's who's on the executive board of the National MPO. Elected representatives from Davidson, Rutherford, Sumner, Wilson, Williamson, parts of Murray, and Robertson counties, as well as the governor and some elected official from the Greater Nashville Regional Council, whatever that is. That's Carl Dean, who says we need to have, by the way, he said we've got 504 square miles that we're trying to implement sustainable communities. And, you know, I'm not suggesting that we form a great county, not yet. That's what he said. A great county. Anyway, he's the chairman of the Nashville MPO currently, and then Mayor Anderson of Williamson County is the vice chair, and the immediate past chairman is the Honorable Ernest Burgess. He was at the helm when they commissioned this bike and walking study. So he was right there, and he's on the executive committee now. So they're making decisions. And so if you could have seen, and by the way, the MPO, that's our MPO right there, those 5 counties. But look, every county in Tennessee belongs to some kind of MPO, TPO, RPO, a transportation planning organization, or a rural planning organization. They're all superseding our local government, starting to work as a unaccountable. See, when Mayor Dean says, why don't we build some bike paths and run them across to the, and get you guys to do it down in Rutherford County, I can't vote for Mayor Dean. There's 10 or 15 or 20 people on that MPO. We've only got one person that we voted in there. And even if he's on our side and votes no, he's going to be outvoted when the Fed, HUD, DOT, and EPA is doling out those grant monies. I also had a video of another guy, he had a map of the 10 counties surrounding Nashville. He said 9 out of 10 counties, I'm glad to share, are either completed or in the process of completing their 2035 comprehensive plan. Now, we hired a oh, by the way, here's the vision. Rutherford County seeks sustainable growth. That's the first thing you see in a comprehensive plan. Protects our natural and historic resources. Well, sure, we want to protect them, right? While preserving our values and culture, qualities and culture. That doesn't sound bad on the surface. But what is sustainable development? Now, I've had over 2.5 hours of conversation one-on-one with the Chief Planning Director, Doug DeMonson. And I asked Doug about 4 different times in our conversation, well, what's the definition of sustainable development? And he said, well, you couldn't give me an answer. It was kind of rambling. And I said, well, do you know what it is? Well, if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers. 10 different planners, you'll get 10 different answers. And he's telling the truth, because when I went out to try to find what the answer was, I did get different answers. So my question is, if there's about 10 different answers, or maybe even more, shouldn't we know what ours is defined as? It'd be nice to know. Okay? And when I finally pressed him on it, he said, well, Jake, if you look in the plan, and are you going to find a definition for sustainable development? No, it's not actually listed in the plan. It's more like a buzzword that planners use, like smart growth. Oh my gosh, he's falling right in with all the others nomenclature buzzwords that Sally rattled off at the top of the page. So, again, I can't show you but David Hafley from Parsons Brinkerhoff was the consulting company that Rutherford County government paid $250,000 to help us craft our plan, our unique plan. In fact, he stood up in front of the county commission, again, I've got this on video, saying the most important aspect is the vision. And in that vision, there's three important phrases: sustainable growth, protecting nature and historic, and protecting our culture. And so if he went on to say, and this is not, you know, we came up with this plan. It was a 2-year process with the citizens involved. And this was not my plan, not our plan, not the staff's plan, but this was the citizens and the steering committee's plan. They make you think that it's unique to Rutherford County, that only we came up with these ideas. And we find out that every other county around us has the same 2035 plan with the same kind of nomenclature. Now, they may have used a different consultant, but keep in mind there's 2,000 NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and hundreds of consulting companies that are endorsed by the UN. They're supported and trained by the UN to go in and teach sustainable communities on a local basis. And so we hired somebody like that. We interviewed 4 of them. We interviewed 4 companies. In fact, I've got a records request into the planning department. I'm going to be looking at those 4 proposals and see how different they are. I'm also requested all the emails coming back and forth from those companies. So he went to the American Planners Association's website in order to figure out, you know, who should we hire to help us with our plan. Well, the American Planners Association website is chock full of Agenda 21 experts. So no matter who you choose, you might get somebody that's better at implementing it than somebody else, and somebody that charges less or more than somebody else. So right now, 90% of the land in Rutherford County is zoned for approximately 3 houses per acre. So no matter where you live right now, if you're a farmer, how many people live out in the rural area? If you got a little bit of land and say you wanted to develop it, let's say you got 300 acres and you wanted to sell off 50 acres of it, you could put about 150 houses on it. Probably less than that when you take away the roads. And so a developer may strike up a deal with you. But then if they come along and draw a line on a map and say, I'm sorry, you're out in the rural area, we're going to reduce that to 1 house per acre that you can develop. Now, you could say, well, that means my property value is probably going to go down. I'm going to argue with you that you probably can't even sell it. If I'm a developer, why would I want to go build 1 house per acre on your land? I can just go right across that imaginary line and buy some property over there and build 3 houses per acre. I don't want to waste my money and I have to only build 50 houses when I can build 150. And that's something? They just took your value of your property. You might be stuck with that property forever. And maybe you want to be a farmer forever, but sometimes those farmers that get to be about 85 years old, sometimes they want to stop. And maybe they don't have kids to take over. Or maybe they're going to lose their farm because we have a war and OPEC and raises their gas rates. Maybe our gas goes to $8 a gallon, and the only way to save your family farm is to carve off a few acres and sell it to a developer. But if a developer doesn't want to buy it, see a farm, it's gone. Right now, many of the citizens of Rutherford County expressed a desire to see the remaining rural landscapes of the county preserved. Now, how many of you in here were the many? 1 of you, 2 of you, 3 of you, 4 of you, okay, 5, there's a handful. But I suggest that there's many, many more in here that probably wasn't part of that particular process. And why do they want to see the remaining rural land preserved? Preserved from who? From the people who own it? What if you don't want to do something? When will you do something different with it? Anyway, but they think they should have some commercial construction, etc., but it should just be in a more appropriate location, not yours. This is the map that they're coming in with. This is the city. This is Murfreesboro, Laverne, Smyrna. This darker yellow is the places that are unincorporated in the county that will still be able to build 3 houses per acre. The rest of all of this, the light yellow and the green, all of this in here, you can only build 1 house per acre when this thing goes into effect. Except, you see these little round circles here, here, there, and there, and there? Those are called nodes. How many of y'all live in one of those nodes? Las Casas, Christiana, Kittrell. So those nodes, they're going to let you build more in the nodes, and we'll get to that in a minute. Rural centers are created on the basis of existing and likely development. These centers would have a majority of the new development located in a more compact design. So what they're really saying is, well, you can build more houses out in the rural area only if you build them in the nodes. So we can put all of the growth into those small areas and compact design more houses on the same land and only where they want it to go. And the outer belt will have much lower densities. Past zoning policies have created expectations for many as to the economic potential of their properties and the right to develop land. I wonder what that means. While many agree that new policies are needed, those who own properties where development expectations may change may seek incentives for accepting a reduced development yield. Now, all you farmers in here, we're not talking about your crop yield. We're talking about your yield on your value of your property. You might have to accept something else, some other incentive, like tax breaks maybe. Tax breaks, money. I don't know which one I would choose if I had to. Now this one makes my head explode. Rutherford County has a long history of supporting private property rights, but is now concerned with the potential rights of future generations for a well-planned, prosperous county. Can somebody explain to me what a potential right is? Now, if you're sitting in your house and the county calls in and says, hey, I know you got property rights, but we've got some potential rights out here that we've got to think about. Some future generations might want to use your property someday. What does that really mean? My head's going to explode. This process helps ensure that whatever decisions are reached, by the way, this is all coming, these are images from the plan. I didn't retype these, this is straight from the plan. Whatever are reached, they are reached with proper understanding of each other's rights and needs. Now, does this mean now that somehow a need is going to be elevated to a right? I mean, if I have property, I have some property rights, and you don't own my property, but you have some needs, can we balance that out somehow? That's what
the occupiers want to do.
Well, yeah, the occupiers go down there, they have to have a permit, do they? At least they're occupying public property, right? All right, the steering committee decided that character areas will be used in conjunction with centers to organize future growth. Centers are compact, mixed-use, walkable areas that utilize growth potentials of existing infrastructure and development nodes to attract and organize future growth in livable, less auto-dependent, and environmentally sustainable patterns. They include all these low to medium density employment centers, activity centers, village centers, rural centers, blah, blah, blah. But they anticipate growth that is organized and compact. So all those little nodes out there, Kittrell, Christiana, Rockville, Eagleville, all that charm they want to reserve and protect. How are they going to do that? They're going to build high density, mixed use, maybe many multi-story, couple 2 or 3 stories high. You're living on the 3rd story over a fried chicken place in the post office. That's what they're talking about. Yeah, you won't get away with fried anymore. A village center is placed around Eagleville to build density. Why do they want to keep building density? What does density mean? Many people. Stacked and packed and racked. Okay? A series of centers have been identified, each with suggested land uses and densities. 10 rural centers are recommended to concentrate future development. Now they're concentrating this in the nodes. By establishing characters in the character areas in the county, Rutherford will have a guide to those places that contain the rural and open landscapes that should be intruded upon minimally. You have some landscapes out there, farmers, and it can't be intruded upon. It needs to be intruded upon minimally. Are you guys intruding upon your own land right now? You probably don't want to be intruded. I mean, that's why we put up no trespassing signs, right? We already got that part covered. We got shotguns. All right, now that's going to be taken out of context, so I hope you didn't see it clear that time. But hey, that's the one thing I learned when I was campaigning. If it said no trespassing, you better not go go knock on the door. They'd blow your head off. Okay, they mean it. They don't want you knocking on their door. So who's intruding here? If we own the land, we're not intruding, but it sounds like you're intruding on your own land because you're going to do something that's going to affect somebody else's need or possible potential right. Okay, but wait, there's more. All right, expand the non-motorized transportation routes in all county municipalities and other parts of the county. Review right-of-way policies to facilitate all appropriate modes of transportation. We're talking about potential locations are identified in the National Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's bicycle and pedestrian study. We're talking about bike paths now. Did they talk about bike paths in the comprehensive plan? We know they did in the bike study, right? 1,100 miles. Provide neighborhoods that create a sense of community and connectedness. How do you connect a community? You require non-motorized connections, biking and walking in new developments to create a better connected community. Rutherford County should also look at examples of blueways like that in Tennessee River Blueway in Chattanooga for examples of assembling the necessary rights-of-way, assembling properties, and for the maintenance of ongoing. So it's almost like we need to look at their manual and tell us how to get that property we need for our bike paths. I'm sure they're going to offer you some money for it. But what if you don't want to sell? I mean, Dave, you said you wanted to die on that property, right? Going to have your ashes spread across the Stones River. He's only 50 feet from it. Planning for transit and multimodal transportation should occur now so that these elements can be incorporated into future county projects. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to go out and start assembling properties now, so for some future plan that they might have?
I mean, this is bad, but it's going to get worse.
Oh yeah. Develop a countywide greenway system and integrate it to the existing greenway system. Integrated county greenways into consolidated Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Rutherford County. Provide on and off-street bike and pedestrian connections between development areas. Minimize sprawl adjacent to rural communities that effectively diminishes their intactness and the entryway experience. That's what I said. What? What in the heck is an entryway experience? Well, I know what it is because I kept studying this plan. Okay, every little node is going to be a gateway community. It's going to have an entranceway. So when you drive into the gate, that particular node, there's that entryway experience. So farmer, I like your silo and your barn and your nice pretty fences you got up. So we want to make sure that you don't change that because it could diminish my entryway experience. I don't know what the heck impactness means. Guide development to create commercial and residential nodes rather than residential sprawl. Define what sprawl is, folks. You know what sprawl is? It's a house with a yard. That's what it is. They don't want you to live in a house with a yard. They want you to live in multi-unit, high-density, vertical, walkable, because they don't want you to use automobiles. Maybe without garages, like Sally said. Why in the heck would somebody? That's why we have sprawl, because you want a yard, maybe a quarter acre, a half acre, sometimes even an acre. But for most people, we live in a subdivision, we're already putting up with HOA rules. We don't want to be stacked, packed, and racked. Strengthen natural resources, streams, slopes, and trees. Now, in the county, what they're going to do is look at your acreage that you bought, 5 acres or 3 acres, and you want to build something on it. And so, well, first of all, we got to determine how big your structure can be based on taking away all the stuff that you can't count towards a buildable lot, which is your frontage. It's all your utility easements, your water and sewer lines, and all of that, and any water, wetlands that might be on there. And if any of your land is 20% or more in slope, can't count that either. So if you got 2 acres and an acre of it is 22% slope, well heck, you're already down to an acre now. And there's another thing they're going to do. I mean, guys like to have outbuildings on it. We're outbuilding type of folks. Well, when you build a house out in the county, when they pass this plan, you're going to have 1 outbuilding. You say, well, heck, I'll just make it one big one. No, it'll be a ratio based on the square footage of your home. So I know some guys out there have outbuildings as big as their home, right? Yeah. You can't do that anymore. Maintain the traditional rural character of Rutherford County and guide development into areas suitable for higher densities. There's that word again. Here's another goal: protect and enhance open spaces and connected network of parks, trees, and stream corridors, and creating a healthy environment. How do you do that? Well, you use something called overlays. Overlays can be developed through zoning regulations that identify boundaries and spell out the relationship between the corridor, the visual and scenic goals, and any benefits there might be, or incentives to be offered to the landowners. So after they do all that, there might be something left over for you guys as landowners when they put this overlay. An overlay is a template. It's kind of like when we want to decide we're going to put a gateway into Eaglefield. We're going to design this template that we just lay it over the map. And anything that falls in that template, we're going to have setbacks, we're going to have managed access, we're going to have restricted access, have limit on signage, more trees. And if your property happens to fall in that overlay, guess what? You have to comply. Here's a sample of one. Highway 99 is to be identified as a gateway corridor, developed through a specific corridor management plan. See, this is separate than just regular planning. This is a super enhanced plan. Coordinated with similar goals and policies in the comp plan, a corridor overlay should be developed that brings together access management, careful selection of building setbacks and uses, signage standards, which really means limitations on signage, because that came from a different paragraph on the same idea. Careful selection of building setbacks, signage, right-of-way and mobility options, which is also, they have access management, which to me means that they're going to manage our access in that little area, into a single development scenario. Bam, let's drop that little overlay in that area, and all these special considerations have to be applied in that area. Here's another one. A plan recommends that one or more corridors identified as rural or scenic corridors be the subject of a specific corridor management plan that balances the visual and scenic appeal with the development rights of the current property owners. Again, I like your silo, man. That silo, that barn, boy, that is really nice. That visual appeal, we got to keep that intact. Don't ever change it. Regulations should enforce these boundaries and provide both incentives and requirements for creation of gateways into communities. The plan recommends zoning, infrastructure, and subdivision policy be coordinated to guide the majority of future development to the appropriate character areas as identified plan. Again, this is Kittrell, Christiana, Las Casas, all those small areas. They're going to herd development to those areas. Here's an alternative to purchasing land when they need to buy some for the gateways and the bicycle path, or the more costly and disruptive manner is just to take the property under eminent domain. That's in our comprehensive plan. Not afraid to use it. This is about water conservation. It says some of these are being written into building codes and landscaping standards. Projects that promote sustainability, such as LEED, go Google that, and with Agenda 21, that comes from the UN and Agenda 21. Certification. Other green building programs offer a variety of tools that promote water savings within structures. One of those I found in another comprehensive plan out in Utah, which was promoted through the MPO in Nashville because they had the governor of Utah come out and speak. So I went to the governor's website, looked at their comprehensive plan, and their water conservation measures were things like tiered pricing. Oh, you want to water during the afternoon? We're going to charge you a higher rate. We want you to water at night after 11 p.m. so the water won't evaporate. Oh, we're going to make you only put in these types of certain plants they're good in arid conditions. They don't need a lot of water. So they're going to might be telling you what kind of plants you can plant. But yeah, I don't want to waste water, but at the same time, maybe they're going to restrict you from washing your car or other things that you could do with your water. Oh yeah, you won't have a car, so that won't be a problem. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. Boy, I'm going to open up a spring of bicycle washes. Yeah.
There'll be restrictions on that too.
Comprehensive plan, if adopted by our county commissioners, will provide legal incentive for consistent land use regulations. I'm asking all the county commissioners that are in here to take a strong look at this. I'm being very surly, and I'm being, what's another word for it? Smart alecky, right? I am. I admit it. But after I've read all this for a while, my head starts hurting. You know, how do I deal with these potential rights of these future generations? Those guys can come in any time and get them. This is, what they did is they came up with 10 goals that they wanted to accomplish in 10 different areas. And then under each goal, they had sub-objectives. So they would name the objective, and then they'd tell you what the strategy was to get that objective. Then they did us a favor. They said, here's the challenge that we're going to have trying to implement this objective right here. So that's just a part of a page where you see that they're saying, here's the objective is adopt zoning and development control requirements via district overlays to encourage redevelopment of rural communities. And we're going to do it this way. But here's our challenge, community buy-in on the boundaries of potential overlay districts. Sure, because you're going to be sitting there going, I don't want to be in that overlay, let me just step out. Why don't you, draw me out of that zone. Landowner opposition to changes in development densities outside of community centers. See, there's lots of challenges that they've named. I'll be fair with them, they at least came up with the challenges. Let's take a look at a few of them. Community acceptance of increased density and mixed uses within centers. Christiana, Kittrell, Las Casas, and all the other little places. You like your little charm, right? Well, you might be concerned if the density increases, because they're not talking about 3 houses per acre in those nodes. They're talking about 6 houses per acre or more. Or 10. Yeah, go vertical. Let's go mini high-rise. Yeah. Walkable. If it's walkable, that means you don't need to drive.
Why don't they want you to drive? You have to ask yourself that question. Why don't they want you to drive anywhere?
Well, because they want to protect the open space and conservation, pollutant plant and humans. The plant is more important than the humans in this scenario. Opposition to decreasing density outside of centers. Landowner resistance to any restriction on development rights. Well, heck yeah, there's going to be some challenges on that. Balancing legal issues with relating to property rights with environmental protection. Well, I got my property rights, but I got the EPA over here, right? Thanks, EPA. Property rights of individual families who want to develop in areas where no development exists. I asked Doug DeMonsi many times in this 2.5-hour conversation what's the problem that we're solving with this comprehensive plan? Well, I mean, we just can't have people building over where they want to. I said, well, we've been doing that, haven't we? Has it been a problem? He goes, well, you just don't want to go out in the rural areas where there's not as much, infrastructure. I said, well, like what? Well, you got to provide county services. I said, like what? I said, if you're a developer and I'm going to develop the property out here, you're saying that maybe there might not be water? He goes, yeah. I said, well, then if I go build a development and I can't get water, that'd be kind of stupid, wouldn't it? If I was a smart developer, I think I'd probably check first and check to see if I can get electricity or phone and all that kind of stuff. And don't I, as the developer, have to build the roads in the community and the sewers and the sidewalks and the bike paths? Yeah. So what's the county doing again? Well, they've got sheriff and they've got ambulance, and I said, okay, but they don't patrol out there now? Well, yeah, but they might have to patrol more. Really? Yeah, it'd be better if those communities were closer to Murfreesboro, around that 1 mile barrier. So you want to herd us in there and have more people there, and you just want to keep patrolling the same amount? That seems like I'm getting underserved. It doesn't make sense when you start a bunch of questions. Community buy-in on the boundaries of potential overlay, landowner opposition to changes in development densities, landowner resistance to changes in development policies. Not all landowners in a given area slated for development wish to do so when the opportunity is presented. You know what this really is? This is these guys in the bureaucracy saying, we know better than the market. We know better than you where you want to live. and I want to develop a development out here on my property and build a few houses, a subdivision, the market's going to determine if the thing gets built. I love that little subdivision we're in, okay? Yeah, it was a farm, but that farmer made a decision to sell his property. He wanted to do that. And nobody forced a gun to his head. What are they saying here? Well, what if you're in that area they want to develop and you don't want to? Right now, they can't do anything maybe. But maybe 10 years from now, there's some changes in the ordinance that say, hey, you know, there's something called redevelopment in California, where they not only just take eminent domain to put in a road, what they do is they do eminent domain to give it to another private builder over here. It's going to build a big box store and get more revenue for the city. That's called redevelopment. Okay? That might be what's coming next for these guys that don't want to play ball, that choose to forego development rights and economic returns. Landowners' willingness to forego development revenue in exchange for tax benefits. Well, I wonder why. I'd rather have $2 million in tax credits. Right? By the way, I kept trying to explain to Mr. DeMosi that you're diminishing my property value. He said, well, Jake, I really understand what you're saying. You still develop. I said, duh. If I can do 3 houses an acre, maybe I can sell that property for $2 million to a developer. And you reduce it to 1 house per acre. Now maybe he might offer me $700,000. $700,000 is a lot of money, Jay. That's what he said.
What is the tax benefit?
Of what?
They just want to...
Well, they may give you a tax break if you don't sell it, because we want you to keep it in open land, because we don't want to diminish this entryway experience over here. So if you'll just keep your property in open land and don't develop it, we'll give you a tax break.
But it's going to have a lower value, is what I mean, right?
Oh, it ain't going to have that much value. It's not going to have as much value as your property for it.
Well, I don't know.
If you give one guy a tax break, are people have to raise everybody else's taxes?
Okay, so yeah, we got a motor, guys. This is really the 3-to-1 right here. The challenge is resetting current density levels from 15,000 square foot per lot, which is about 3 houses per acre, down to 1 house per acre. Okay, that's what you're saying there. Achieving a sufficient concentration of population to make a new bus route feasible. When you start concentrating people, what do you think of? Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, man, I don't want to think that, but that sounds far-fetched. What?
You've used the word sustainable so often.
You got used to it, didn't you?
Something that is sustainable is something that adds and supports life. And what word are they hiding by the use of the word sustainable?
Control. Control by the government is what it is. All right, let's move, guys. Here's some other challenges. Acceptance by the development of increased costs of associated development. Potential difficulty in estimating the real cost. Possibility of increased impact fees will make homeownership less affordable. See, they admit all this. Land dedicated to right-of-way is land that cannot be included in development calculation and is therefore costly to developers and landowners. So if we're going to make you put in an extra wide bike path, that's even more land you can't build on. It's going to make it more costly, and you're going to pay more money when you buy your next house. Sidewalk, bicycle, pedestrian pathways add to development costs and can receive resistance from development community. So those are all of the challenges. You know what? I read that 154-page document more than 3 times. Nowhere in that document have I ever seen where they said, here's the answer to those challenges. Here's how we're going to solve those challenges. You know how they did it? They said, we had 2 years of open meetings. I went to 3 of them. I went to the very first one. When I went to the very first one, I started asking a bunch of questions. I thought, could this be Agenda 21? But I didn't get any kind of relevant answer from the planners to even suggest they even understood it. So I thought, it probably isn't. And then I kind of got, kind of slid past me until I saw this open houses that they were doing right before they're going to pass this thing. I started getting a little bit more involved and found out that, yeah, there's something to this thing. But what they say is, well, we've been doing this for 2 years. We've had vision casting sessions. We took surveys. We had open houses. We came out in the community and showed y'all this. Where were you, Jake? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the ICLEI have to do with all this?
ICLEI is long story short, they come in and contract with counties and towns and charge them expensive fees to help them implement sustainable development. They're straight from the
They're
UN.
now calling it, they renamed it, but they're now calling it Sustainable Resilient Cities.
Right.
And at their.
They always change the name once we figure them out.
Right, and at the World Congress in 2010, they're doing a top-down approach. They have over 1,200 cities in their site.
Right. There's like 150 cities in California's already signed on to them. Knoxville signed on to ICLEI. But there's also been 34 cities who booted them back out.
Franklin.
39 now, Sally says. 39 cities took on ICLEI, paid them fees, and said, yeah, let's do this comprehensive plan. And then once they got into it, they said, wait a minute, we don't. The citizens pushed back and they kicked them out. So that tells me, elected officials, please investigate this. I'm not castigating you if you don't know what Agenda 21 is. But you know what sustainable development is. But if you don't understand the consequences of sustainable development, look at it from a different perspective. Try to look at it from a private property owner's perspective before you make that decision. Oh, by the way, is the reason the county is implementing a comprehensive plan to save money? Wouldn't you think that if we're going to change the whole way we do things, that we'd make it more efficient, save money for the government, right? That's what we want to do, right? Okay, let's take a look at what the comprehensive plan says. The comprehensive plan says the scenarios under consideration will have no effect on these expenditures. The point is that the vast majority of county expenditures provide services countywide. Major expenditure categories will change little across scenarios, including law enforcement, social services, administration of justice, schools for the most part. See, they had 3 plans that they proposed. They proposed a do-nothing plan. That's the plan we have now. That sucks, right? Then we have the suburban belt plan. And then we had the urban infill plan. Now, the suburban belt plan is the one we adopted, changing 3 houses down to 1 houses for development. The urban infill plan was going to reduce it from 3 houses per acre down to 1 house per 5 acres. But that was too much of a radical departure from what we're used to. So we went with this incremental plan, the suburban belt plan, the one in the middle. Okay? And so when they compared all 3, see, here's their little secret. We got growth coming. People are going to move into Rutherford County. If the same number of people move in and get in and do it through the do-nothing plan, or they do it through the suburban belt plan, or do it through the urban infill plan, it's the same amount of people. It's just where they're going to put you. And it's all going to cost the same. It's not going to cost us any more to do it the way we've been doing it. And so, in other words, what is the fiscal impact of more diffuse, less concentrated growth like we have now in rural areas as compared with more dense growth like nodes and stack pack and multi-high density, blah, blah, blah? The answer is that the impact on the overall county budget will be minimal. So if we're not doing this to save money, whose landscape and visual appeal and entryway experience are we really talking about here? So it doesn't really have a leg to stand on. Now, Mr. Brickerhoff, or David Hafley from Parsons Brickerhoff, he's our consultant. We pay $250,000. When I asked Doug DeMasi, have you ever heard of Agenda 21? Well, I don't know. I don't really understand. I haven't heard of it. I've heard of it, I think. Okay. Well, these guys will pay $250,000. I wonder if they've heard of it. Well, here's an introduction to a training and education series that Parsons Brinkerhoff teaches. The establishment of the Water Conservation Partnership Project was facilitated through the Partnership for Local Agenda 21. So they actually teach water conservation methods based on the local Agenda 21 ideas. Then we got this report right here, the UITP. It's the Transportation Planning Initiative, Making Tomorrow Today. So back in 2003, all these people were charter signatories. These are the full signatories. And then actually this page went down here somewhere. It was about twice as many companies that signed on to this charter saying we're full signatories. In fact, what that means is they actually believe in sustainable development so much that they do it in-house. You know, they have green teams and they take water breaks and stuff like that. Well, oh, by the way, there they are. Parsons Brinkerhoff. See, they're part of this UITP launched its Sustainable Development Charter in '03, taking part in the World Summit of Sustainable Development in Johannesburg. The concept of sustainable development and the term itself was first coined in the report of the Brundtland Commission, Our Common Future, published in '87. Remember that sustainable development definition I gave you from '87? That's where it comes from. And they did that in preparation for the Earth Summit, the United Nations Conference in Rio. In 1992, Agenda 21 was adopted by more than 178 governments, including ours. Then they got that little link at the bottom right there. I thought, I wonder where that link goes. So I clicked it. It goes right to the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs Division of Sustainable Development, Agenda 21, Earth Summit. This looks familiar, doesn't it? So that's our consultant that we paid $250,000 to.
You said you didn't know anything about
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. So I think I connected all the dots, didn't I? So we've got the RUCO plan that's part of the National MPO plan that wants $800 million worth of bike paths that our mayor set at the helm of and is still working with. And the EPA comes in and says, we're going to help you change local codes so we can change the language, so we can change the way you guys live and plan. And I think we're going to let you guys in on a secret. EPA is hooked up with the HUD and DOT. In fact, that guy from the EPA said the three agency leaders of those three groups, HUD, DOT, and EPA, they went to the Chris Dodd from the banking committee and said, hey, we've decided we're going to work as a team. Three agencies are going to work together to promote and implement sustainable development. We think we can work together better. So we got EPA all involved in the Agenda 21 since 1992. Just remember, Bill Clinton signed the executive order and he created the President's Council of Sustainable Development. So all you got to do is start reading this stuff and make your head explode. One of the experts that looked at our plan said, this one is so aligned. He's never seen a plan that was so much aligned with the Agenda 21 out there. He's never seen one that complies with it so thoroughly. The green people, the green standard out there is, remember the slope, 20% slope? The greens, the tree huggers say 22% is what the national standard is. We're worse than the national standard. Knoxville's putting in 15% slope and they're putting in a rain tax. That's a water conservation measure, by the way. How would you like to pay a tax every time it rains? I want to say, you come out to my property and say how much rain on my property. Well, you better not come out of my property. So here's what we got to do, folks. Here's what's happening next. They've already adopted the plan, but it doesn't have teeth until the Planning Commission, which is made up of 11 members, 4 of them are county commissioners. Will Jordan is one, Steve Salmon is another. Is it Rhonda? Rhonda Allen. And I can't think of Jeff Phillips. They're the 4 county commissioners. Then there's 7 citizen-appointed people, which I don't really know much about, but they're appointed. They're going to have a vote on Monday, December 12th, 12 days from now. And they're going to determine whether they're going to pass the new zoning laws that make this plan take effect. Now here's the kicker. They didn't even put the actual law that they're going to pass onto the website for us to review until November 14th. So it hasn't even been up there a month yet. Only been up there a couple of weeks. And I've been reading through that. That's a 200-something page document that says this is how we're going to make you guys do all this entryway stuff. And bike paths. And mixed-use, high-density nodes. So I started digging into that and started finding out how they're going to actually make you do stuff like you can only have one structure on your property besides your house and you can't build on slopes more than 20%, blah, 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 blah. Don't you guys think we ought to show up in mass and bring a partner and fill up the county courthouse on December the 12th on Monday night at 6 p.m. and let them know? What we're asking for, I'm not against regulations. I'm not an anarchist. I'm not an Occupy Wall Street. I believe we got to have some rules and regulations, but I think the citizens need to have bigger input. And if they really believe that their 2-year game plan was to involve the community. How many of you guys went to those meetings? A handful of you, okay. Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance, one of the stakeholders, right? Okay, there's lots of stakeholders that went to those meetings, and a lot of those people, some of those people on the steering committee. The Bicycle Club, what do you think they're thinking about this plan? Yeah, they're having a good time. The watershed people, they don't want you to do anything to any kind of stream. I don't want to pollute it, but if I want to walk through it, I want to do that. But very few people, average people who have to, I had a guy today who said, "Oh, I'd like to come, Jake, but my son's got scout meeting. I'd rather be with my family." I said, "You're right, I'd rather be with my family too." And that's the problem. We all have lives and families to deal with. We don't need to be looking over the shoulder of every elected official to see if they're doing something in our best interest. Why should we have to have a property rights council to protect the rights that we already have? Okay? So all we're asking is for the elected officials at this planning commission meeting to delay their vote and give the rest of us who didn't get a chance to go to all these visionary meetings to start looking at their plan. If their plan holds up under scrutiny, well then guess what? Everybody's going to probably say, the majority's probably say, let's go for it. But I think, by the way, I tried to pin Doug DeMasi down on how many people actually were part of this thing. We couldn't figure out. There's probably less than 300 people. I mean, I went to, there was 4 open houses that they had in 4 parts of the county. I went to 2 of them. And the second one, that they had the second one, I went to Doug DeMasi. I said, how last night turn out? Well, we didn't have that many. We had one family came in, one couple. That was 2 people. I was there at that meeting, there was about 7 of us. And then I was there at your meeting. How many was there, Susan? At our meeting that me and you saw, when I saw you. Probably 8 or 9. Yeah. So there wasn't that many people is what I'm getting at. I think we probably have almost as many people in here that had a, we have almost as many as they did involved in the plan. So if there's this many people who's interested tonight, I think there could probably be more people, because here's what I think we can do. I think we can do better marketing of this plan than they did. What do you think? I think we can get the word out a little bit better than they did to get the community involved. And if we get more, because think about it, we got 249,000 people in our county. Less than 300 people had anything to do with this comprehensive plan. And most of them were either steering committee, planning commissioners, stakeholders, meaning they got a vested interest in this thing going forward. Most of them were people just like me. So I think we can do a better job of marketing their program than they can, then we'll see, let the chips fall where they may. So we're going to ask the elected official just to delay the vote, table the vote on the 12th, and give the citizens enough chance to dig into this, and let's look at it. Maybe there's some way we could figure it out. I did tell Doug, I said, Doug, you know, if you guys just leave it at 3-1, maybe some of this other stuff wouldn't be so bad, but if you just leave it at 3-1 across the county the way it is now, I could probably live with that. He said, check. I said, they let the free market determine how far out people go. He said, Jake, I really don't have a lot of faith in the free market. I just don't. Ha, ha, ha. I got that on, you guys are going to see more of this video and stuff that I have. Please register. We'll send you about 4 or 5 videos that go with this. That drive, because when I say it, you doubt it. When you hear it from a horse's mouth, you're going to say, oh my gosh, like I did. Sure. Questions and answers. Questions? She's asking, are they innocent? Do they know what they're doing? Are they doing it on purpose?
Jake, before you answer that, I want to say something.
Okay.
Planning commission.
Okay.
Bring the mic back here.
Yeah. I don't think they're doing it on purpose necessarily. Yes, sir.
He wants to trade.
Flip it on.
Tell everybody.
Thank you, I guess. Jake, you brought out a lot of information right there, and what you said, things you brought out there. And like you said, it's been 2 years of what they were doing here. Now, I got on the planning commission after all this has been involved. As I told Luann here, the reason I got on the planning commission was I got a phone call asking me to do it. It wasn't the fact I called and asked to be on.
Nobody throw eggs at this guy.
I did not ask to be on there because I'm not that big of an idiot. But I've always sort of voiced the opinion that I think you should be involved in the community, you should be involved, and you should be doing things just like you have here tonight. And I do appreciate the number that come out to hear this. I mentioned to some of my other commissioners the other day at the meeting, I said, how many are you going to this meeting? I know we all got the same email, and someone said, well, I got this to do and whatever. I said, well, I'm going. I said, I don't care what the meeting involves, whatever, but if the people ask me to come to hear what's going on, I won't be there to hear. And that's what I want to do. I'm a 7th generation Rutherford County. All my family come here to farm in the very beginning, and that's where I am right now. I want to farm out here in Rock Bell, Tennessee. But as we were talking about here about the plan that you're talking there, when this come up, we had two choices when he come down to voting on this. And just like you were talking about the crowd, the different community events, when it was discussed as public hearings or whatever, the crowds were small. In fact, when the initial votes started coming out for the planning commission to either approve or not approve this plan, we put it off 2 times.
I saw that.
We put it off 2 times because of the size of the crowd. Because there wasn't enough people, and we sat there and voiced that we're not going to approve this if we ain't got any more people than this coming out to voice. So then in February, I believe exactly when it was, we had somewhere around, I think 75 people did come out. They didn't like this, they didn't like that. We got a good number, we had a lot of farmers involved in it, we got some things, and we made changes in it. There was a conservation area, I know that. The conservation area was taken out because people come and voice their opinion in it. Got that taken out of there. And then we come back, I know when it come up another time in the nodes you were talking about, some individuals didn't want to be in the nodes. We took a lot of that, reduced them. We went back to Doug and told him these have got to be pulled down, they're too large or whatever. Took those things down. As a planning commissioner, I can tell you how many phone calls I got about this. 0.
And I think the reason that is that most of us don't, you can't argue with us. That's like saying, oh, you want dirty air and water. Well, nobody wants that.
You're right there. But as I was telling Lou Ann earlier, and this thing keeps coming and going, or it's me, I'm sorry, I didn't RSVP you about coming to this meeting. I had surgery about the day before yesterday.
I appreciate you coming.
And I didn't know if I was going to get it or not. But when we had a choice of either voting this to a point where we go to the county commissioners, they would take it and work on it, and it would become law.
Right.
Or we had the choice of voting it where it would become a tool. In other words, if we voted to become a tool, it means it can be changed. In other words, if the property owner come in there, he didn't like his property being in the node, it can be changed. So that's what we did.
So I think you're right. I think the few people who found out about it, so I don't want to be in the know. I think there's probably more people like that if they find out about it. Now, if we make it law, then we're going to have a hard time backing that back out of it when we find more and more people. Because here's when people find out about it.
Yeah.
When they go to build something. They're like, what? I got to have a 50% conservation easement on my land in order to do that?
That's exactly right. And I'm the person that made that motion to begin with. I made the motion that we make it a tool, not a law, where if we're going to have this, it's something that we can change. I don't like something that we're going to have that once it's there, folks, we're stuck with it.
So are you saying the zoning draft that's on the website right now, that gets voted on by the 12?
Zoning is totally,
Zoning ordinance.
zoning ordinance, or the zoning that's coming up is a redo of the zoning that we currently have.
Right, but it's connected with, it's joined at the hip with the comprehensive plan, because that's the whole idea, say this is what we want, we need to have laws that do it. Now Doug did say that a lot of that stuff, he would say, well Jake, that's probably not going to happen for many years. Well, I don't know which one's going to happen now, which one's going to happen later. I can't really look at the zoning draft and tell which one, what's in there that's new, changed, removed, altered.
You're right. The draft, and I know we have sat in session on that thing, I don't know how many times, back and forth changing some things. I know some things have been put in there, and I know some things have stopped. As I told you, I've come from a farm in the rural community. That's sort of my interest in whatever, and I made some changes in there to protect farmers and their rights, dealing with livestock, things of this type, to protect farm property. That's what I want to do, what we can do there, as well as anybody's property whatsoever. But primarily what that will be doing coming up on the 12th is dealing with your zoning. You were talking about buildings, how the size of the building you can have on your property. The last one, that has been changed, because we threw a fit on that. Because you got a man out here that may have 5 acres, he may have 100 acres, but it's all based upon the size of the building or the house he has now. That's been changed.
Well, it's still in the draft on the website. That's what got me worried is, would you agree that if you guys put up a zoning draft on your site and it's only going to be on there for 32 days by the time you vote on it, that's a little quick for anybody to try to dig in, especially a layman trying to learn, trying to read that stuff?
I understand.
Would you be willing to make a motion to delay it once more? Because how many people here would like to have more time to look at it?
I believe we could delay it.
Okay, that's what we're
If
doing.
you're going to be there that night, we'd like to hear your concerns.
I think you'll have a few more people than you normally see show up.
If we have this many people showing up and this sort of thing, we can discuss that.
Like I said earlier, Steve Sandlin said, give me bullet points, give me notes.
Yeah,
He
well,
said, give us a chance, and
Well,
that's what we're
I'm
gonna
gonna put this presentation up on the web so that you can, I'll do a voiceover and where people can look at it. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Does anything in this plan specifically touch on the placement or planning for police, fire, and EMS
Does
infrastructure?
anything have anything to do, does it say anything in the plan about where to place fire and, I don't think
EMS
so.
and police.
From what Doug DeMonte told me, he doesn't have a lot to do with where they place fire and that sort of thing. They do with schools. They did talk about trying to site schools in different areas and make it a little bit more efficient. But that, not on the other stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Police bicycles.
There's some of the you can't change there's special bikes,
I suspect there's probably a vested, companies, businesses that have a vested interest in going forward with Agenda 21, or...
Well, I got a call today from a big property developer, and he said, Jake, I can't be there tonight, but brother, I'm behind you, go for it. We don't, I said, wait a minute now. From what Doug DeMossi tells me, that a lot of these developers are gonna actually like it, because what they're gonna do is come in and say, they got a 10-acre lot, they could build 30 houses on it. Instead of building 30 houses on the whole 10 acres, they're gonna cut it in half and take 5 acres and leave it in open land, and then take the other 30 houses and cram them into the other 5 acres. That the developers would like that because they don't have to build as many roads, and they hold their costs down. The fellow that called me today said, Jay, when you give it, they take it away on the other end. I don't know of any developer that I know that is excited about this plan.
Is to find out, we obviously as property owners would oppose something like this, but maybe more importantly, is who's backing this from a business.
Well, the Farm Bureau is bought in, and the Chamber of Commerce is a stakeholder. So there's two, there's at least 2 businesses that say that. Look, guys, one more thing. Catherine Hudgens, she funded this room out of her own pocket. If you guys want to throw $1 or $2 in at the back of the table to help us pay for this room, we appreciate it. This is a non-profit. We're just a bunch of citizens that got there. We cobbled this together to beat this deadline. So if you can dig in your pocket and pull out $1 or some change or a couple dollars, somebody back there to take the money. Yes, sir.
Just want to say thank you, Jake, for putting this together.
Make sure you sign up, get your email address on there. By the way, if you'll take your phone, write this phone number down. This is the Concerned Citizens for Property Rights Hotline, 697-9977. 697-9977. I'll be giving updates. I'll be sending out 615, yeah. There's a packet in the back, guys, that has all of the county commissioners and all of the planning commissioners, and you can get on the phone, start calling and asking questions. Be nice to them and be respectful, but be firm and be convicted. Please carry your trash with you.